Hey folks, Ted from Nerd Immersion here, and yeah, it seems like so many other people out there are, well, the Gizmodo article, which we'll talk about here in a second, seems to be the big one, saw what I've basically been saying and had said in my previous Open D&D OGL situation video that, yeah, it's bad. It's actually, in my mind, I actually think worse than what I had originally said in my first video, because well, we've seen what it is, or at least what it's supposed to be. Now, I didn't want to make this video at this point because we haven't seen anything official from Wizards of the Coast yet, which could be a good thing. So I want to come out and say that. So what was leaked and what's referenced in that article is basically
I doubt what's leaked is fake, though. People are saying it's fake. I don't think it's fake. I think it's real.
That shows a lot of the really awful things, but it's basically blown up all over Twitter. Everybody's talking about it. So I was like, well, it's as good a time as any to make a video on it. I'm not going to come out and go, I told you so or anything like that, because I really had sincerely hoped that while my video was, I guess, alarmist, and according to so many people in the comments calling me a fearmonger and just doing it for clicks and likes and all this other kind of stuff.
YouTube vitriol. I know all about that.
Obviously, that wasn't the intention, but I was sincerely hoping to be proven wrong, and unfortunately, it seems like that's not the case. Now, I will say, once again, to say this up front, take this all with a grain of salt. It's this information that's going to be discussed here has been verified, in my mind, from multiple sources, but the only one that hasn't officially verified it is Wizards of the Coast, the people who made the ultimate thing. And now,
of course not.
All the NDAs that people had signed about this, I think, expired yesterday on the 4th.
Oh.
And everyone was expecting a statement from Wizards of the Coast yesterday. Now, we're looking at this potentially as a positive, and that maybe all of the blowback and leaks.
No wonder, if the NDAs expired yesterday, then no wonder they decided to put out that, flowery statement when they did, saying they love the game and we love the game, and they just want to protect, they just want to get rid of NFTs, right? They just want to get rid of NFTs, and don't worry, guys, it's not as bad as you think. It was damage control to what was about to happen. Yeah.
And everything that's going around that people are all upset about, maybe that's given WotC enough pause for them to say, hey, maybe we don't release this statement, and as such, we'll wait and, not do any, we'll change it maybe. Which, ultimately, if I, like others, and possibly even like this article, had come out and said, here's what it looks like, what it's going to be, and then talk about it, and then WotC releases something tomorrow and says, actually, it's not like that at all, then everybody's going to be like, oh my god, it was all fear, alarmist, fear-mongering nonsense. So that's why I didn't want to make this video now, but considering everybody's talking about it, and honestly, the more buzz that is built around this, the potential of them actually not submitting and going forward with what was originally presented that we're going to talk about here is, maybe that'll give it a little more credence and they'll take a second look at it. So I have a couple of articles and different things I want to talk through. So let's go ahead and jump in. This is the main article everyone was talking about. This is from Linda Kodega. It was published about 4 hours ago as of the time of me recording this. Despite reassurance from Wizards of the Coast last month, which is, again, I made my video, and then Wizards of the Coast released their statement that says, no, the OGL is not going away. And then everybody's like, oh, see? You're like, how much more clear could it be?
He has 9 Discord notifications. Goddamn.
It is what it is. Will become unauthorized. The original OGL will become an unauthorized agreement, and it appears no new content will be permitted to be created under the original license. So this goes on to talk about what is the original OGL, which is an important thing, right? It's what many contemporary tabletop publishers use to create their products within the boundaries of D&D's reproducible content. Much of the original OGL is dedicated to the system reference document, includes character species, classes, and so on. The creation of the OGL
Okay, so the real reason they have to update the OGL is because the SRD still refers to things as races and not species. That's actually the reason for 1.1. Confirmed. It's canon.
Version 1.0, which was originally published in 2000, which is something that we'll talk about because this is probably a lot more far-reaching than you might initially think. It was published in 2000, has allowed a host of designers and publishers, both amateur and professional, to make new products for a game that remains entirely owned by Hasbro subsidiary Wizards of the Coast. Well, this arrangement created products that directly compete with WotC Publications. It also allowed the game to flourish and grow thanks to the resources created by the wider D&D community. In 2022, when WotC announced plans to develop the revised edition of the rules, codenamed 1D&D, the company said it would update the OGL as well. The OGL has been tweaked multiple times since its 2000 release, and the WotC has had it at times transitioned to other royalty-free licenses, but the original OGL 1.0 had essentially remained intact until the company said it would develop OGL version 1.1. What is the new OGL 1.1? A lot, actually. Well, the original open game...
Damn, he just reading the whole damn thing. Okay, he just reading the whole damn thing. Yeah, so they said, Beaver, to kind of get you up to speed, the open game license that they're talking about was essentially what's held in place since our old 3.5 days and you know, third edition days. And it essentially allowed, you know, third-party developers and small creators, what have you, to take the mechanics, the rules, everything just short of direct Wizards-owned IP, such as Beholder monsters and shit, right? And essentially use it to either make their own game, their own setting, whatever it may be, and publish it and make money on it, and it was fine because it was an open license, so therefore they were allowed to use it as long as they published under that license. It was royalty-free. Third-party publishers being, you know, Paizo and others, right? And they made a business on the OGL. Well, now, what has happened? Wizards decided to release a so-called update to the OGL, known as 1.1, where everything was otherwise known as 1.0 or 1.0a. And with this update, they basically said the old license is no longer authorized, and the new license requires that these publishers, not only if they make a ton of money, a fuck ton of money, around $750,000, must pay us a 20 to 25% royalty, but also, if they make over $50,000, they have to report their finances, for which we may then, underneath this new license, say, all right, it's ours now. And they're allowed to republish your work. Anything published underneath that license, under that license, they can republish your work and therefore take your work. And that's it. They can now literally fuck over third-party developers to that degree, and it's it's disgusting. It's a little grody. Yeah.
License is a relatively short document, coming in at under 900 words. The new draft of the OGL, which was provided to IO9 by a non-WotC developer, is over 9,000 words long. It addresses new technologies like blockchain and NFTs and takes a strong stance
which no one cares about
content, explicitly stating the company may terminate the agreement if third-party creators publish materials that is, quote, blatantly racist, sexist, homophobic, transphobic, bigoted, or otherwise discriminatory. And
basically what we're talking about is they will never publish this last part. They will never publish another Book of Vile Darkness. I've joked about it a lot already, and I'm not going to joke about it anymore. But yeah, there's going to be, if the book is just too grimdark, too edgy, whatever, then they can just get rid of it. Wouldn't this just ruin D&D? So it won't necessarily ruin D&D. It's going to ruin everything that was built on the back of D&D. There are a lot of games, even those that barely call back to the old mechanics of 3.5 or whatever, that were still published under the OGL. So a lot of third-party gaming, which is, I mean, if you think of third-party as the majority of the entire tabletop genre, they're about to get fucked in the ass. The entire industry is about to get fucked in the ass by this. Anything new would apply, or is it retroactive? I am of the understanding that it is anything new. However, anything that is currently compatible with what they're saying. It's tricky because what they're saying is that 6th edition or 1D&D is backwards compatible, and theoretically 1.1 will invalidate the other licenses, and if anyone tries to publish anything under 5th edition or anything compatible with those, they would still fall under the wing of the new 1.1 license and therefore still be revocable and or republishable. So it does apply technically to things that are new, but if you're new and you're trying to publish underneath the old rule sets or whatever, then you can't do that. I guess. I don't know. I'm a little fuzzy on that. If anything is in publication and release site and being released right now, whatever, then I think obviously it's okay. But new materials, I don't know. I don't even fucking know, dude. I'm not a lawyer. I'm not a lawyer, and I can't really weigh in on it as heavily as I'd like. But it's fucking the whole industry. Yeah, it sucks.
Quote. I believe this is targeted directly at new TSR and all the nonsense that they were doing. I think that specific sentence is basically put in.
I know nothing about new TSR,
but
I didn't know TSR was still around.
Obviously, there's a greater, for anybody, which I totally understand, but I think that's specifically targeted at what new TSR was doing. One of the biggest changes to the document is that it updates the previous available OGL 1.0 to state that it is, quote, no longer an authorized license agreement, end quote. By ending the original OGL...
What's TSR? So TSR is what essentially took D&D from Gygax, if you know who Gygax was, the founder of D&D. And TSR eventually sold to Wizards of the Coast. And when Wizards of the Coast bought D&D, that is when they released the OGL. Now, I think TSR still held a few IPs. I think the IPs were a bit scattered. I thought that Wizards had collected most of their IPs, being their campaign settings, etc. With the onset of 5th edition. I'm not entirely sure. I may or may not have been disproven at a point, but I didn't exactly have hard evidence to say one way or another. But I guess not only is TSR still around, but they're also a pain in the dick to Wizards. New TSR was loosely a continuation of the old TSR? Okay. I barely know what TSR really did to get in the in the bad light. I have no idea about that entire bit of history, other than that they were the thing before Wizards. So people that formerly worked there? Okay. Is this the type of thing that they won't enforce? They won't work enforce, or do you have to think they'll go ham? I think the problem here is that they're trying to release D&D material for the 2023 audience. This is my speculation, but I think what they're doing is they're trying to not only make it so fucking difficult for third-party publishers to want to distribute their product, but that they're going to try and convince customers that they should only consume any product digitally, and they should do it through D&D Beyond. That is my speculation. I think, therefore, they're going to enforce everything as much as humanly possible, bring down all of their competition, and or put them out of business by just republishing their work, and then spoon feed us through subscription services and paid for products, and those products, of course, being classes, races, subclasses, magic items, etc. All of it will be through D&D Beyond, and I don't think I think published materials as a whole, not just through third parties, but as a whole, will be minimized in lieu of D&D Beyond. That's my speculation, and I think that's the trend that I'm seeing. TSR was fully dead in the 90s, and WotC bought it all, but technically the original creators do have some rights to old material. Yeah, I think the IPs were, I thought they were mostly held, but I guess, yeah, they still have some, there's still some things like with the owners of Dragonlance. I guess some of that's still out there. But yeah, I'm not personally someone who has really supported or enjoyed third-party products. I think a lot of them, by first impression only, suck. But I still hurt for the people whom this affects, because this is not only is this livelihoods going down the drain, but it's also an entire hobbyist culture being destroyed, and passion projects just being shot in the foot because the corporation wants its money, which was bound to happen, right? It was bound to happen, and it's happened in every other industry but the tabletop genre, more or less, right? Digital games, we've seen this happen for ages. And we've, of course, those of us that have consumed and enjoyed digital games have bitched and moaned and complained every single time it's happened, right? Activision, Blizzard, EA, all of them. Fuck them. So we're used to this shit. But the tabletop enjoyers, the hobbyists and the, those who just, did their thing in their local game store with their Mountain Dews and, their Yu-Gi-Oh cards. But in this case, their tabletop games, they're very greatly affected. And this does have very far-reaching implications for the industry as a whole that will eventually reach myself and others who are like me. WotC and new TSR had a spat because TSR was courting OSR attention, and WotC decided to label old material as made in a different time and might be racist, sexist. Causing authors distress because they're still making content and don't want to be labeled like that. Yeah. I mean, just look at when Spelljammer came out, right? The new Spelljammer. And the whole thing with the Hadozi happened. The monkeys, the monkey people. And Wizards wrote up entirely new lore that was racist as shit. And then when they came out their apology statement, they said, yeah, that was a different time back then, and we didn't really understand. We just kind of moved, this from there to here, and we didn't realize, that it was so bad. We didn't really look at it too closely when we moved it. And it's like, you didn't move anything. You wrote that yourself. From the Hadozi lore had none of the racist shit in it before you wrote it for 5th edition, and you blamed 2nd edition for what you wrote in 2022. Stop it. It's so fucking dumb, man. I whatever. Let's keep going.
OGL, many licensed publishers will have to completely overhaul their products and distribution in order to comply with the updated rules. Large publishers who focus almost exclusively on products based on the original OGL, including Paizo, Cobalt Press, and Green Ronin, will be under pressure to update their business model incredibly fast. This is no mistake. According to the document procured by IO9, the new agreement states that, quote, the open game license was always intended to allow the community to help grow D&D and expand it creatively. It wasn't intended to subsidize major competitors, especially now that its PDF is by far the most common form of distribution.
That line is important. PDF is important because, like I said, they're trying to really encapsulate the digital game, not the digital games market, but the digital sphere for product distribution, not just they're trying to. I think print is going to be less of the focus, and more of the focus is going to be their virtual tabletop through D&D Beyond and their their subscription services and what I call skins and battle passes, right? Will be the forefront of how we consume D&D in the new edition. Radiant Citadel, even worse. Look at the art of the Mexican guy in that, and no one called them out on that. I don't even know. I stopped purchasing D&D books with Van Richten's. That was my last one, my last disappointment. So I have no idea what even that is. But it's fine because it's cultural, right? It's not racist, it's just cultural. There's a difference. All right, and honestly, if I let me expand on that. So I don't really think anyone really called them out on the Hadozi either. Okay, I'm going to put on my tinfoil hat for a second. I don't think anyone short of the Twitter warmongers called them out on the Hadozi either. And I'm sure they're raising the same stink on Twitter about the thing in Radiant Citadel. I'm sure they actually are. But I think in this instance, I think they wrote that in consciously. And then through bad publicity, all publicity being good publicity, I think they then pulled it to discuss how great of strides they have taken as a company to separate themselves from the past that they, like you said, deem racist. They did the whole thing. It's like a stunt to announce that we now have cultural sensitivity advisors, and we are good boys and not bad boys. I think it literally staged it for the whole all publicity is good publicity thing, and I think it appeased individuals whom heard this news that might not necessarily have been D&D players to maybe try to support, like many people ironically and awkwardly do, support companies that they deem as woke, the corporations that take more money and make use of people by pretending to be on their side. I think it was a huge publicity thing to momentarily shoot themselves in the foot by accidentally publishing something racist to try and gain more sales by coming out with a heartfelt apology and being extra sensitive and showing their work. Again, tinfoil hat, but I think it was a marketing ploy. I just don't feel like there's any way no one caught that the entire time, unless they really. And I mean, we've seen it, right? We've seen it. The piss poor effort they put into their actual publications. We've seen it, but I feel like someone would have caught that. I don't know.
End quote. Can we talk about that for a second? The open game license was always intended to allow the community to help grow D&D and expand it creatively. It wasn't intended to subsidize major competitors, i.e. Paizo, i.e. Pathfinder. The point of that is, because the OGL 1.0 was released in 2000, anybody who's made content using this 2-page open game license, basically all you had to do was include the 2 pages of that in your document somewhere, and that basically made you compliant with the open game license. So the entirety of Pathfinder 1E, I can't speak to 2E, I haven't looked at it, but Pathfinder 1E only exists because of the open game license 1.0. It was...
I think the story behind this, he's probably about to tell it. I think the story behind this was the 4th edition GSL was so much of a cock in the ass that they decided they were just going to use 3.5 instead, and therefore just use the other OGL. And they decided, okay, the game system isn't really D&D. It doesn't really reflect the heart and spirit, let alone its license is dog shit. So they just made something before times instead. They resurfaced the past and brought it back to life.
The Wizards of the Coast,
even though people are already still playing it.
Their 3.5, they went to 4th edition. It didn't do very well commercially.
Exactly,
and
it
had basically a license similar to what we're going to talk about here. And Paizo said, well, we're going to take the open game license and make our
His
own
9 Discord
version
notifications
called
is stressing me out.
And because of that, with this new change that they're talking about, this will impact Paizo's ability to produce Pathfinder. If Pathfinder 2E references the open game license at anywhere within it, then it is also subject to this. There are a ton of other systems, and this is something that maybe you guys can do. I've been talking with friends about this for a while. There are a lot, more than you probably think, of third-party, not even necessarily D&D creators, just other companies that use the open game license or reference it. Like, I'm pretty sure Chaosium for Call of Cthulhu references and has the open game license in their products. Now, it might not be obviously the
and that has nothing to do with
D&D. Call of Cthulhu, but I do believe that it's referenced. And there are several other RPGs that have been in existence for 20 plus years that reference the open game license and use some of the terminology and things from it, as such, are now impacted by these changes. This sentiment is reiterated later in the document.
And what's worse too is that they can change or revoke the license at any time, as long as they give a 30 days notice that is only available on their website or maybe Twitter or something. They will not tell any company who has actively published under the license that they are changing it again, unless that company follows WotC. So you might think you're compliant, and it turns out you're not. And you wouldn't know, because they're not going to bother to tell you. Call of Cthulhu doesn't have any crossover with D&D. Yeah, that's just how deeply ingrained that OGL shit is, though. I don't know why. But it was just such a graceful license. Again, open. The language was just free. If they needed to invoke any clause from it, or use anything from D&D in any fashion, a callback or whatever, it was just a cover your ass kind of thing to have it. So why not? And now, since these hobbyists and passionate people, as I'm going to call them, thought just as a cover your ass and labor of love kind of thing, that it's okay to have that just in case, because it's gonna always be a license that you know, it basically states its own foreverability in one of the clauses. They can't fathom it's going to change. Why not have it? And now that exact thing is going to turn around and shoot them in the foot.
Quote, OGL wasn't intended to fund major competitors, and it wasn't intended to allow people to make D&D apps, videos, or anything other than printed or printable materials for use while gaming. We are updating the OGL in part to make that very clear.
Apps and videos. Apps and videos. I didn't even think about this. How many of us use, or how many of us know people that have used, like a basic little phone app to keep a character sheet on before D&D Beyond came out, or I mean, shit, dude, how many people just need videos to be like, I'm a first time DM, right? And then, you know, follow step 1, 2, 3, 4, and then you reference that shit from the DMG, and then you don't have, I don't know, I don't know, I don't exactly know. That's a bad reference, but or a bad example, but this extends to so many different things other than what I would have imagined, which was just simply like, okay, so video games, right? We're talking about the medium of only printed material. I'm thinking immediately like Solasta, Crown of the Magister, right? I'm thinking purely of video game mediums in which they invoke the OGL. I'm not even thinking about apps and like tutorial services. I don't even know what videos would be, right? But there's so many other things out there that I'm sure had some kind of, they had something going for it, right? And now, like, shit, all that's it's gonna get blown up, dude. Wow.
Here, end quote. Basically, they don't want to allow anybody to use the D&D stuff to make apps on your phone or whatever it might be to facilitate, you know, whether that be character
Professional
creation,
DMs are fucked.
character sheets, dungeon
Well,
creators.
good thing I'm still unemployed.
That's not acquired. Anybody
is.
who's using the OGL to make video games, I think Solasta, Crown of the Magister would probably be one of the big ones.
There it is.
For that as well.
There it is.
Paizo Inc., publisher of the Pathfinder RPG,
Yep,
one of D&D's largest competitors, declined to comment on the changes for this article, stating that the rules update was a complicated and ongoing situation. Chris Pramus, founder and president of Green Ronin Publishing, said that despite the fact that one of their own products, Mutants and Masterminds, was published under the original OGL,
I'm also unemployed. Yeah, that's 2022, brother.
Today, they have not
that's how it
seen
is.
the updated OGL.
It's fucking
they do
terrible.
not believe there is, quote, any benefit to switching to the new one as described, end quote. Again, it is still using the original OGL, and potentially this change may invalidate that completely, but we'll keep going. Wizards of the Coast declined to comment for this article or any specific questions about the leaked OGL document. A spokesperson directed IO9 to a blog post the company published in December, which reassures the community that the OGL will not materially affect the majority of people working in the industry.
We love the game so much, and we just want to make sure that
what will happen to the original OGL? The original OGL granted perpetual worldwide non-exclusive license to the open game content, commonly called a system reference document, and directed the licensees may use any authorized version of this license to copy, modify, and distribute any open game content originally distributed under the version under any version of this license, end quote. But the updated OGL says that, quote, this agreement is an update to the previously available OGL 1.0, which is no longer an authorized license agreement. The new document clarifies further in the warranty section that this agreement governs your use of the licensed content, and unless otherwise stated in this agreement, any prior agreements between us and you are no longer in force.
There it is. Yeah. Wow, dude. Even though that was a forever agreement, they're just gonna straight up say, "Fuck you." No, it's not. There it is.
According to attorneys consulted for this article, the new language may indicate that Wizards of the Coast is rendering any future use of the original OGL void, and asserting that if anyone wants to continue to use open game content of any kind, they will need to abide by terms of the updated OGL, which is far more restrictive agreement than the original OGL. Wizards of the Coast declined to clarify if this is in fact the case. That is what my interpretation of what I have seen is as well. A lot of people.
Guys, I have a very unrelated question to anything going on. Why in this video are there anatomy charts of Vegeta? I feel a little attacked here. Why is he just on display for the world over here in the boonies? What is actually going on over there? I'm a little concerned. I'm a little concerned. I don't think Vegeta agreed to that. I feel like if we gotta go after anyone, we gotta figure out who's using Vegeta. Who probably doesn't have the rights to Vegeta. Okay, I don't either. Actually, so don't do that. Okay, they're fine. You don't know about them. What you don't know won't hurt you. Okay, move on.
We're under the impression that, well, you just don't sign the new OGL and you can't use any of the new content, but you can continue to use the OGL 1.0A that you've been using for 20 plus years. I believe, based on exactly what the folks here at Gizmodo are saying, it does appear to me to be written in such a way that it's invalidating the previous one, voiding that, and forcing you to sign up for the new one. Who will be affected by the OGL 1.1? If the original license is in fact no longer
over 9,000, as long as you don't count the hairs on my head.
Publisher will be affected by the new agreement because every commercial creator will be asked to report their products, new and old, to Wizards of the Coast. Additionally, while the original OGL did not specifically outline what kind of content you could make and profit from, the updated OGL is very specific. Only allows for creation of role-playing games and supplements in printed media and static electronic file formats. It doesn't allow for anything else, including but not limited to the things like videos, virtual tabletops or VTT campaigns, computer games, novels, apps, graphic novels, music, songs, dances, and pantomimes. You may engage in these activities only to the extent allowed under the Wizards of the Coast fan content policy or separately agreed to between you and us. That is a quote, by the way, from the document itself. The fan content policy can be read here, but in broad strokes, it allows for free content, quote, based on or incorporating our IP. Fan content includes fan art, videos, podcasts, blogs, websites, streaming content, tattoos.
That's me.
Altars to your cleric's deity, etc. So that's basically where I fall, is more under the fan content policy as far as making videos and things. Well, but this is basically saying it's not going to allow you to write D&D novels. You're not going to be able to make
all my shit has to be free, and that's why it's in my about section now.
Computer games
below.
I'm pretty sure
all my shit is free
directly. It's Lost a Crown on the
everyone has access to it.
And then also again for virtual tabletops and virtual tabletop campaigns. This is, again, it specifically states static electronic file formats, meaning PDFs. So, again, if you have a website or something that uses the D&D things to help as like a character creator or something like, I guess, Kobold Fight Club, things like that, those websites that are dynamic in that they change because they're updated, that kind of stuff, that is not covered under this new version.
Go after tattoo artists.
Leaked OGL
only if they sign their name on the tattoo.
May not give licenses
like artists like to do.
Time to adjust.
See, tattoo artists are smart. They don't do that.
The document reads: if you want to publish SRD-based content on or after January 13th and commercialize it, your only option is to agree to the OGL commercial. IO9 source indicated that the final version of the document was originally intended for release on January 4th. Which would have given companies and creators 7 business days to agree and comply. That is 100% what I saw and what I looked at and received as well, was that it was supposed to be sent to people yesterday on the 4th, with them having to comply by the 13th of January, or you couldn't continue to make content at all.
How the goddamn fuck they expect anyone to like, okay, they went to a bunch of different companies and made them sign an NDA, so they knew about it beforehand, I guess. But I'm sure there were plenty that were left out in the fucking cold streets, had no idea this was coming, and they were gonna get blindsided by it, man. They were gonna get fucking blindsided by it, and only have 7 days to fix their shit or ship out. Man, ain't no fucking way, dude. No.
What's changing in the new OGL? It's divided into non-commercial. Non-commercial and commercial agreements, and the rules are slightly different if you're making money from direct sales or access to your work. The biggest change between the two sections is a tiered earning system, more on that later, new royalties, and rules for the use of crowdfunding. There's some clarity given about Patreon and tips. Basically, if your content is available for free elsewhere, but people can support you voluntarily without having their access affected, you are considered a non-commercial. Additionally, all creators will need to clearly and deliberately distinguish, quote, their content from, quote, licensed content. The new document reads that this must be done, quote, in a way that allows a reader of your licensed work to understand the distinction without checking any other document. The updated OGL suggests a different color font, asterisks on the page, or putting a separate index or list in the back of your licensed work that lists out what exactly you used from the SRD. Other parts of the new OGL document create a tiered system of categorizing licenses based on their revenues from commercialized work under the outdated OGL. So, you can't even just like, previously, again, you could just throw those 2 pages in the back of your document, and then that was it. Now you basically need to say, like, if I reference this specific thing, I need to clearly let you know WotC made this, not me, throughout the entirety of your document.
That's, yeah, I wanted to listen to that all the way through because I was a little fucking worried, man. I was like, okay, I don't want to misinterpret this. Like, that can't be. No, that's exactly what it is. You have to fucking highlight exactly what you're using in your actual material on top. Dude, that's fucking hard, dude. Wow, man. What a bunch of. I mean, okay, I know why. I know why. Again, I know why. They're a corporation. They got to make sure we're attributed to things we worked on, and if they're using theirs, it's it's like a citation, right? You're making a citation to the work or the system or whatever that you're using. But man, that's fucking dumb, dude. Fuck.
Which is just exhaustive and ridiculous, in my opinion.
Yeah.
Will OGL publishers have to pay royalties? Oh, yes, they will. Publishers, no. Probably not, unless they're making over $750,000. Well, licensees get to keep the money they earn, but the new OGL states that the commercial agreement covers all commercial uses, whether they're profitable or not. So if you go into the red on a Kickstarter that earned $800K in backing money, you still owe Wizards of the Coast regardless of the fact that you did not profit from your venture.
And that is a 20 to 25% royalty from a Kickstarter. Which means you funded to have the project developed. You haven't even started making money yet, and you already have to pay more money than most people will earn in 10 years to WotC as a fucking royalty, dude. No. Just no. Let alone, you may not have even finished the fucking product yet. Cite your work as ours so we have more leverage. Yeah.
Sure. Note that if you appear to have achieved great success from producing OGL commercial content, we may reach out to you for a more custom and mutually beneficial licensing agreement. The document notes indicating that WotC is open to create contracts and agreements, but at their discretion. This could indicate that, quote, subsidized competition like Pathfinder might not get a great deal. The revenue tiers are as follows. Initiate tier. If you have registered at least one licensed work but haven't generated $50,000 or more in a total gross revenue from the OGL commercial products in a year, you are at the initiate tier. Intermediate tier. If your licensed works have generated more than $50,000 in total revenue in a given year but less than $750,000, you are in the intermediate tier. And then again, if it's over $750K, that's the expert tier. According to the document, if and only if you are generating a significant amount of money over $750K per year across all licensed works, the revenue you make from your licensed works in excess of $750,000 in a single calendar year is considered qualifying revenue, and you are responsible for paying us 20 or 25% of that qualifying revenue. The draft goes on to explain that if you make $750,001, you will owe Wizards of the Coast 25 cents, as they are only asking for royalties on the dollar made.
Okay, that's good. Okay, that is the smallest W we could have gotten from this, but okay, that's good. That is okay. So the Kickstarter isn't doomed. Just don't raise any more money. Stop it. You pay up front. WotC gets your PDF, cancels your product if you can't get it out under 30 days. Then they sell it on DM's Guild as if they made it. Dude. Yeah. At least the royalties aren't as bad as we thought. At least that's the small light, dude. I don't know.
And the $1 made in the excess of the expert tier. As stated in their announcement in December, WotC suspects that less than 20 companies are at the expert tier. I'm not sure if that's true, given the fact that basically what we talked about here with Kickstarter. If you go into the red on a Kickstarter that earns $800K in backing money, you will still owe Wizards of the Coast regardless of the fact you didn't profit. So this is, again, hitting any Kickstarter that makes that amount of money. Who has to register work? This is another good one. And it might come up later, but basically the document says that they can change and adjust to any aspect of this license at any point in time as they see fit, as long as they give you 30 days notice. So this 750K number could easily start coming down year after year to basically possibly down to that 50,000 level, or maybe even less if they wanted to. The updated OGL says that, quote, no matter what tier you are in or how much money you believe your product will make, you must register with us any new licensed work you intend to offer for sale, including a description of the licensed work. We'll also ask for your contact information on where you intend to publish the licensed work, and its price, among other things. Creators will also be required to use a specific badge in order to publicly and obviously identify their work as covered by the updated OGL, and they have to give WotC a copy of the publication. The early draft suggests that many of these processes will be handled through the company's official digital toolset, D&D Beyond. This is a significant change from the original OGL.
Suggests that many of these processes will be handled through the company's official digital toolset, D&D Beyond. Yeah, they're shutting everything else down, and that includes just the physical space entirely. Wow.
Which allowed creators to publish without reporting. Well, it makes sense that Wizards wants to monitor who is using the open game content. This feels like an impossible task. People are selling their work across dozens of platforms, and sometimes one product is being sold on multiple platforms. Whatever the reporting looks like, the biggest burden will likely be on the smallest creators. Kickstarter is D&D's preferred crowdfunding platform. Online crowdfunding is a new phenomenon since the original OGL was created, and the license attempts to address how and where these fundraising campaigns can take place. The OGL 1.1 states that if creators are members of the expert tier, if your licensed work is crowdfunded or sold via a platform other than Kickstarter, you will pay a 25% royalty on qualifying revenue. And if your licensed work is crowdfunded on Kickstarter, our preferred crowdfunding platform, you will only pay 20% royalty on qualifying revenue.
That's a good for that. Yep,
this means
good
that
for
the
them.
Updated OGL is directly encouraging Kickstarter over any other platform, including private company sites, as any non-Kickstarter revenue over $750K will incur a 25% royalty, and only Kickstarter revenue gets a break. There is no reason stated why Kickstarter is Wizards' preferred crowdfunding platform. There's also a section in the updated OGL dedicated to conditions surrounding crowdfunding. Even for initiate and intermediate tiers, there are strings attached to using any crowdfunding platform, not just Kickstarter, to get a project off the ground. The two main points are that, quote, you may only crowdfund the production of licensed works, and that, quote, no infringing materials are given out as perks or rewards.
There's a video the other week where someone pointed out that the analog and digital shit is a big divide. People that play in person are the ones that are most likely to break free. Yeah, but when they're trying to make you update your shit, that's even like published under the old licenses, and they can essentially take your work and republish it before it even hits the fucking shelves. Not really though, right? Because companies aren't going to pay the publication cost and the distribution cost of books when it's so fearful whether or not they'll even be allowed, or they'll have to destroy any product published under the old licenses if it gets updated in that 30-day range, right? That's still in their stock. They're not going to want to publish physical materials. Now, if you already own them and you're already playing those, then fine, yeah. But I don't know, dude. They will dodge it by not playing D&D. But I mean, I think like Pathfinder though, right? Pathfinder or even hell, like anything that was OGL, right? Any company that was OGL. The games aren't going away if you're already playing them, but anything new, a supplement for those games, or any kind of expansion update, or even just like, you know, I think like Pathfinder 2e or whatever, right? Like I don't know if Pathfinder 2e is actually OGL or not, but I'm sure it probably is, right? To even call back to Pathfinder 1, which was OGL, surely, right? And now it's fucking. Why would you ever publish a book? Because they just keep playing fucking merry-go-round with the goddamn license as they see fit, probably, until the other publishers of the competition get annoyed and they stop making products, or they eventually default to, you know, some kind of digital platform where it's just easier for Wizards not only to monitor, but also easier for the publishers not to lose so much money on distribution. I think. I don't know, but so because Kickstarter is a preferred platform, there is the implication WotC might have the thumb on the scale of non-OGL products and get them booted for possible infringement. Makes sense.
I should also point out that John Ritter, who's kind of the head of games on Kickstarter, put this out and said, Kickstarter was contacted after WotC decided to make OGL changes, so we felt the best move was to advocate for creators, which we did. Managed to get lower percentage plus more being discussed.
Good for them.
No hidden benefits / financial kickbacks for Kickstarter. This is their license, obviously, not ours. So, I mean, again, they talked them down.
But
which is
they could,
interesting.
yeah. What you said though, I think there's a
The
there's a
power is
possibility.
back at
Yeah,
Wizards of the Coast.
yeah.
Well, there's plenty more to parse. The main takeaway from the leaked OGL 1.1 draft is that Wizards of the Coast is keeping power close at hand. There's no mention of perpetual worldwide rights given to creators, which was present in Section 4 of the original OGL. And one of the caveats is the company, here it is, can modify or terminate this agreement for any reason whatsoever, provided we give 30 days notice. WotC also gets the right to use any content that licensees create, whether commercial or non-commercial. Although this is couched in a language to protect Wizards products from infringing on creators' copyright, the document states that for any content created under the updated OGL, regardless of whether or not it is owned by the creator, Wizards will have a, quote, non-exclusive, perpetual, irrevocable, worldwide, sub-licensable, royalty-free license to use that content for any purpose.
That word salad, is about to become my brown note. Whenever I hear it, I have the instinctive urge to shit my pants. That word salad is just fucking everything about it. The fact that they turned the exact phrasing that protected you in 1.0 and now it's fucking you in the ass in 1.1. It is literally now my brown note every time I hear it.
There are a lot of implications in the extended policy, and the ramifications of this updated OGL could have a chilling effect on new licensed products. As only, quote, static products are included, all work that publishers do for virtual tabletops may have to be offered as non-commercial free products, which de-incentivizes their production. The royalties associated with any company making above $750K could also prompt publishers to hold back extra products or scale down projects to stay safe under the expert tier. WotC is clearly expecting these OGL changes to be met with some resistance. The document does note that if the company oversteps, they are aware that they, quote, will receive community pushback and bad PR, and we're more than open to being convinced that we made a wrong decision, end quote.
Well, here's the thing. Nothing will convince them that they've made a wrong decision because it's a decision that will make them a lot of fucking money. No matter what happens, they will make a lot of fucking money for not only themselves, but obviously then their shareholders too. And by the way, I looked at WotC's or Hasbro's financials, and I was wrong. Hasbro has been in the shitter even through COVID. They haven't peaked. They've only been going down. They have not had a good time in at least the last 5 years. So their shareholders, it doesn't really matter what we say, because they owe a lot of people some money and some growth, and they need it now. They're pushing hard. They are desperate. So, with their 4-pillar approach, I think they could reasonably get some of that back. I think they can. But I don't know if even that's enough for them to say, okay, let's take our foot off the gas on the changes in the actual tabletop sphere. I think they're going to go through with it regardless of what the community thinks. I don't think there's going to be a light at the end of the tunnel. I think they're just going to keep on going full bore until they make some motherfucking money. I think it's what's going to happen.
They've reached out. IO9's reached out to other folks to get some more information. So that is the document in full, or the article in full. Which
thank you for reading it for me.
Like I said, everything that I saw. A couple things that weren't referenced in here that I thought I would bring up is if your contract is like that contract that they can terminate or whatever for any reason, if your contract is terminated, you are no longer allowed to create any content. As far as from what I read, again, I read it at a point and I haven't seen it in a little while, but basically, yeah, if you had a contract with them and it's terminated, then you basically aren't allowed to create any content at all anymore for 5th edition. I think also agreeing to the open game license forfeits your rights to possibly enter into any class action lawsuits in the future that people may levy against sue Wizards of the Coast for the purposes of for the purposes of like loss of revenue or anything like that. Also, the rumor on the street was, remember how folks, I had said in my video, there's a whole NDA situation, NDAs are going out. Again, cannot confirm or deny this, but the rumor that I have heard is that if you received one of these things originally and then signed the NDA, the benefit you got for signing the NDA is a 15% royalty as opposed to the 20 or 25%. So early adopters got a better deal.
Oh, they got a little less royalty. Oh, cool. Oh, sweet, man. This what a great deal. We got to take that, right?
Not really designed.
We got to take that. 15%. Wow.
Really mentioned in here is that even if you want to create content for free, you still need to sign an agreement. The one that all the ones.
I fully suspect that WotC will start with translations of popular homebrew. Just quickly translate to French, German, Japanese, and sell the popular OGL content overseas where creators don't notice. That is fucking brilliant. Yeah. That is fucking brilliant. Doesn't that make a lot of sense? Yeah. Wow, dude. I need to go back a little bit because he says something very spicy for me, I think.
Oh, one thing that wasn't really mentioned in here is that even if you want to create content for free, you still need to sign an agreement. The one that all the ones with all the money and everything we've been talking about is
what the fuck goddamn agreement I gotta sign?
Open game license. There is a non-commercial open game license, which is basically if you want to create free share-alike content.
No, dude.
By the way, this article says basically nothing's going to change if you want to create free content. But
sure,
if you want to create free content and publish
they've already lied to us about everything else.
You still need to sign up for the non-commercial OGL agreement. Still signing something, by the way. And I'm not sure how. I haven't really seen the specifics of the details.
No one's doing that.
Too much.
No one's doing it. There's too much homebrew out there. There's too much. I can Google so much shit and find so much shit that fast. There ain't no goddamn way anyone's signing anything. Man, non-commercial, no. No one's signing shit, dude. No way.
Focus more on the commercial. But it basically very clearly says, as we referenced.
Why did my quality go down? Why did my quality go down?
The Gizmodo article, that you're signing your rights away. I mean, technically, if you're putting something out for free on the internet, anybody could take it or use it without crediting you. But now WotC can do that. And we talked about Kickstarter. True. So this actually came out from Ryan Dancy, who's one of the original creators of the original OGL from 2000.
Oh, interesting. One of the original creators of the OGL. When they say, oh yeah, the original OGL wasn't intended for all these other, subsidiaries to come out and fucking, publish and make money on the thing. No, it wasn't intended for that. Well, guess who's here to motherfucking say it was, man? Ryan Dancy, the hero Ryan Dancy. There he is, man. Let's see what Ryan Dancy has to say. People sign to get in on D&D Beyond for their friend. Goddamn fucking nope.
And Morris over at
Give it to us, Ryan Dancy.
I reached out to the architect of the original open gaming license, former VP of Wizards of the Coast, and Ryan Dancy, and asked his opinion around the current plan of WotC to deauthorize the current OGL in favor of a new one. He responded as follows: "My public opinion is that Hasbro does not have the power to deauthorize a version of the OGL. If that had been a power that we wanted to reserve for Hasbro, we would have enumerated that in the license. I'm on record numerous places in emails and blogs and interviews saying the license could never be revoked."
There he is, man.
People are saying that, but here's the thing. I don't know. I'm not a lawyer. Maybe once we have the official final...
Yeah, it might not have been the intent of the license, but maybe there was a loophole, and that loophole is what's currently being abused by, today's lawyers going back and saying, well, yeah, we're unauthorizing it now. Maybe that's all there is. Intent versus design is a very clear argument here. Regardless of what Ryan Dancy says, I don't know. It may not have been the intent, but by design, maybe their language that they're using to revoke it is legally allowed, and you'd be liable to have to update. I don't know.
Document. We will definitely get a lawyer on here to discuss it. Hey folks, just as I had finished starting to upload the other video, Noah, aka my lawyer friend, who is someone I actually got to meet at PAX Unplugged,
here we go, Noah. Look at that.
IP focused, like tabletop RPG kind of a lawyer.
Nice. I thought we were done.
Basically,
give it to me.
Put out an article about the OGL, and I figured this is about as best we're gonna get. So let's go ahead and take a look.
Look at that, dude.
So it says, my name is Noah Downs, aka my lawyer friend. I'm a licensed attorney with a focus on business and IP issues in tabletop and digital gaming industries. This is the kind of person we probably want to have look at this. Says there's a lot of confusion and misinformation floating around the internet regarding WotC's open game license version 1.1 and what it means for the future of D&D content creators. So I wanted to take a few minutes to answer some of the common questions I see. So first, let's get some terms and stuff out of the way. Work. A copyrighted work, or for simplicity, work, is an original creation such as a graphic, book, video, song, or program that can be protected by law. Copyright law. Copyright holder is the person who holds the rights to a specific work. This can be the author of the work or whoever received ownership from the author. Open license. Copyright holders can choose to issue an open license to their work if they want others to freely build with, customize, or improve the work. Open licenses give permission to anyone to use this work without costs and minimal restrictions or modifications. Perpetual license. A copyright holder can issue a perpetual license, which is a license to use the work indefinitely.
This was the exact language used in the, I think the 1.0a, if I'm not mistaken. And there was the potential contradiction between the word perpetual and the word irrevocable, I believe. This is probably important.
Only means that the license does not have an inherent expiration date. It can still be terminated or revoked. A revocable license can be revoked, or a license can be revocable or irrevocable. If a license is irrevocable, then it can still be terminated or revoked by the copyright holder. If the license is,
it can still be terminated or revoked. And then, if a license is irrevocable, then it cannot be revoked by the copyright holder. So which one was perpetual then? Interesting. And that's the one that Rules Lawyer had trouble defining. Was the perpetual clause. The license is revocable. If the license is revocable, then if a license does not say it's irrevocable, then it's revocable by default. Okay, sure.
Revocable, then you guessed it, it can be revoked by the copyright holder. If the license does not say it is irrevocable, it is revocable.
I worked ahead a little bit. I'm sorry.
Third-party creators in this case are individuals or companies that make their own works based on the copyright holder's open license to a work. So what's happening? WotC has privately released the OGL 1.1, which has now been leaked. It's WotC's attempt to revoke and replace the open game license 1.0a that has been in place for over the 2 decades. The OGL 1.0 is a perpetual but not irrevocable open license that allows third-party creators to build a thriving tabletop industry that we've all enjoyed, from players and publishers and everyone in between. Companies such as Paizo, Alchemy, Cobalt Press, Hitpoint Press, Griffin Saddlebag, DM Dave, Loot Tavern, and many more have sprung up or experienced significant growth because of the terms of OGL 1.0a. OGL 1.1 is not an open license, although WotC tries to claim that it is. It is a severely restricted set of licenses, commercial and non-commercial, that grant WotC broad rights to the works of third-party creators and requires incredibly high royalty percentages in exchange for continuing to create third-party creators. Third-party creators who agree to OGL 1.1 grant WotC the right to reprint, distribute, and otherwise exploit third-party creators' works without any compensation, and also require third-party creators to pay WotC a royalty if the third.
See, the royalties themselves aren't even that bad. It's the fact that they can straight up take your shit and resell it and tell you to go fuck yourself. That's the part that really damns the entire thing. That's the part that basically undermines the entire industry, is that right there. They can just take your shit and it's no longer yours. That's it.
Party creator finds enough success with their work. What's followed is a huge industry discussion about OGL 1.1 means for third-party creators, established and fledgling, as well as the tabletop industry as a whole. I'd like to answer a bunch of these questions that have been asked in this discussion, as well as other questions I have received while working with third-party creators. Who does this affect? Why should I care? It affects companies, creators, and fans of virtual tabletops, such as Alchemy and Foundry. Foundry? Being able to host D&D content and modules that.
Well, I thought that they said in the clarification that they reached out to the current VTTs, and they probably have, but just not in the language of the OGL, because why would they, right? I'm pretty sure they reached out to probably Foundry, probably Roll20, and past that, I can't imagine too many others that people actively used. I'm fairly certain that those have exclusive deals outside the OGL, that they're fine, at least for now. But yeah, others certainly, they're, like, whatever Alchemy RPG is, yeah, they're fucked. They're probably fucked. I don't know what that is, they're probably fucked. No one's going to trust WotC when disaster hits? Oh, absolutely not. I mean, I haven't trusted them for a while, considering what they've been doing to the quality of the books. and the bullshit since Mike Merle's got demoted to running something at fucking Magic the Gathering. I haven't trusted them even that long. But I mean, this is just straight up. I mean, this goes beyond Jeremy fucking Crawford. This goes straight up to Mr. Cox and the corporate chairs at Hasbro. Man, they're fucking. I mean, honestly, realistically, I don't trust any of them. Digital Games or WotC, right? It's just the coming to terms with of this entire sphere, more or less, what we've dealt with in digital games for fucking ever. And the difference here is that because video games became a labor of love, or rather fell out of being a labor of love much faster than tabletops, where video games were more popular much faster than tabletops, and corporations therefore took over immediately, tabletops were such a labor of love that they had an OGL in the first place. So now they're desperately, I mean, when you look at the fucking financials of the last 5 years, they are desperately trying to find a way to give it back or bring it back, right? And they're just trying to enact as quickly as possible what realistically should probably not have existed in the first place. The OGL should never have been a thing if you compare it to digital games, where that shit it would never fly. It would never have happened. But it's a huge fucking mess. And the only way they feel they're going to make their money back is by unraveling all of that and getting back on a level playing field with what digital games have been doing for decades at this point.
All, which will only be available on Roll20 or Fantasy Grounds. Third-party
maybe not decades, maybe like over a decade.
Saddlebags, Loot Tavern, Mage Hand Press are also subject to these fees, but in addition, risk losing control of the work they make to WotC. D&D-based Kickstarters will still be subject to royalty that makes them all but unfeasible. All of this serves to chill and limit the growth of the tabletop economy community and limiting the amount of D&D content made by third-party creators for fans and serving as a gatekeeping measure for the industry and the hobby as a whole. Yeah. I'm a third-party creator. Should I sign OGL 1.1? I cannot tell you whether to accept OGL 1.1 or not, but I can supply you with information to help make your decision. Here's a breakdown of the important points. Any third-party creator that signs OGL 1.1 will be bound by the terms of OGL 1.1 as currently written and subsequently updated. Agreeing to
Obviously.
OGL 1.1 means that you will have to report what your works are making to WotC, report revenue to works to WotC if above 50K, and provide 25% royalties if it's above 750K.
Which it probably never will.
You will own your own content and works and can distribute them to certain places. However, WotC will receive a perpetual, irrevocable right to use your works and to allow others to use your works without additional payment to you. This would allow WotC to publish these works in places that you would not be allowed to and to allow others to do the same.
Yep.
Your works are the core of your business. It would generally be a bad idea to give someone else near unlimited access to your business. Wait, 750K sounds like a lot. Doesn't this affect only a few huge companies? No, not necessarily for several reasons.
Kickstarter.
Well, 750K seems like a large number. That's based on a gross revenue. Gross revenue is the total of all money generated from a work without taking into account any part of the total that has been or will be used for expenses. In many cases, a third-party creator's actual profit will be less than 25% because of expenses for artists, writers, marketing, etc.
Which means they don't make any profit. Which means they aren't making any profit because all of their profit margin goes straight to the fucking royalties, dude. Holy shit. I didn't even think about that. Yeah. I mean, again, that's where distribution, that's where they're going to have to really start cutting costs. That's the thing. The first thing they'll have to cut is the cost of print and distribution in order to make any money at all, which is probably, I would argue, the majority of the expenses, which means they're going to have to all go digital. And that's where WotC has them by the balls. There it is, dude.
In addition, third-party creators have to pay platform fees for distribution, 7% for Kickstarter, 8% for Patreon, 50% for Roll20. Therefore, a 25% royalty on gross revenue can actually cause a third-party creator to lose money, even if they try to make the works in the first place. The 750K amount is the current threshold to impose a royalty. This number can be freely changed by WotC at any time simply with an email to you. It is likely that WotC will rely on the 50K revenue report threshold to determine how much to reduce the 750K threshold by, so that they can incrementally increase the number of third-party creators subject to the license. Kickstarters have no cap on revenue you can raise for your product. So if you kickstart a successful campaign, then you can end up accidentally crossing the 750K threshold and suddenly having a new expense you didn't account for when you fulfill your project. It's been over 20 years since the OGL was updated. Why is WotC doing this now? Hasbro owns WotC, and December 8th announced to investors that D&D has never been more popular and has, quote, really great fans and engagement. The hobby is under-monetized, aka Hasbro's not making enough money from it, even though they made nearly $1 billion in revenue last year.
They made $1 billion in revenue. Okay. But revenue does not mean... I learned this at my last job. Revenue does not mean profit. Revenue is what you make and you try to generate a lot of in any way possible to make it look like on paper that you're a good business. Even though with that much revenue, you are likely still losing money. As was my last job. It was fucking goofy. But that was also a startup. The big boys, I mean, I don't know. But revenue does not always equal profit. That means your maximum profit is $187,500, and that's only with the $750,000 limit. If they lower it, the max profit decreases. Yeah.
In order to increase the monetization, WotC can do two things. It can either invest in a team of writers, creatives, and creators.
And they change it only by emailing you. And they say, okay, well now you need to pay more. You already signed on the OGL, and now just go ahead and pay us more. We decided the cap is now $500,000. So just sign the check next week, and we'll be good since you signed the agreement. Thank you. Yeah, that's what they do. That's how they do it.
Increase the publications and offering WotC publishes each year, or it can take money from third-party creators by subjecting them to a royalty. The OGL 1.1 takes a foundational document, OGL 1.0a, that creators have relied on for 2 decades and replaces it with something that WotC's monetization of D&D and third-party creators expense. Why not just continue using the OGL 1.0a?
That wasn't a proper sentence.
The OGL 1.1 expressly revokes the OGL 1.0a, despite what this FAQ from WotC claimed. Can't Wizards of the Coast change this license in any way that I wouldn't like? Yes, it could. However, the license already defines what will happen to the content that's been previously distributed using an earlier version in Section 9. This is from the original OGL. I do believe that there are potential legal challenges to revocation of OGL 1.0a, especially given the length of time third-party creators have relied upon OGL 1.0a.
Well, hang on. Let's actually read this. Let's actually read this because this is an FAQ from an older OGL. Can't they just change it in a way that I wouldn't like? Yes, it could. However, the license already defines what will happen to content that has been previously distributed using an earlier version in Section 9. Section 9 meaning only authorized versions are acceptable. Or you can, rather it says, you can publish under any authorized license. You can publish under any authorized license. That is Section 9. As a result, even if Wizards made a change you disagreed with, you could continue to use an earlier acceptable version at your option. Which now, with 1.1, it says you can't do that because while this says acceptable, what it really means is authorized. It now says that the only other version, essentially, right? The only other version, all of it is unauthorized. So now that directly contradicts this. This is not valid at all, technically. In other words, there's no reason for Wizards. There's no reason. Okay. Again, they say, yeah, despite what the original creator says, yeah. So the OGL was never intended for the likes of Paizo and others to make money off our backs. Nah, it wasn't intended for that. But then again, no, there's no reason for Wizards to ever make a change that the community of people using the open game license would object to, because the community would just ignore the change anyway. Well, now they fucking can't, right? Now they fucking can't, because you guys decided, Hasbro's in the shitter, and despite the billion revenue, again, that doesn't mean profitability. So there's no reason. Yeah, there's reason. there's reason. Of course there's reason. Again, digital games markets have done it for fucking ever, man. Of course there's reason. Why would the OGL even exist, dude? This is just the first step toward kicking them out completely. Because there's no fucking video game out there that I'm aware of, unless it's like an open source shitter game, that lets you do shit like this, okay? This is purely unique, as far as I'm aware. Again, sorry for the ignorance and the generalization, but okay, YouTube, you can deal with it, all right? For 1 second, you can deal with it. No other industry does this. Therefore, why would we? Right? Why would we? That's the reason. It's not good. It's not agreeable. We don't like it because we are so, and I say we like I'm part of this, right? But we've been used to this and taking advantage of it, and it's been the foundation of this industry for the past 20, or this genre for the past 20 fucking years. Of course people are upset, right? But at the same time, of course Wizards would do this. It's the only industry that does this shit. There's no reason my ass.
Taken action to revoke it. However, these challenges would have to take place in court. So if I'm a third-party creator, I have to agree.
I don't think they'll win a challenge.
If I wanted to continue to make licensed content using the works WotC is claiming to own, correct. That is what WotC is saying. And if I don't, I'm at risk of getting sued. Yes, that sucks. You're not wrong. There's got to be something else we can do.
True.
Agreed. Several third-party creators are building their own open licenses and system reference documents that will be system agnostic, aka you can use the works they publish with any compatible system, whether it's 5e, Monster.
Yeah, but here's the problem with this. Is that this is what the OGL was. Right? I mean, obviously, they're making their own open licenses. Okay. Now, when you see the big dollar signs that Wizards has going for it, and you realize quickly that corporations are taking over this industry and this genre, what's to stop these licenses from falling into the same bullshit that we're going through now, right? We can't keep doing this, guys. We can't keep doing this shit. I know we want to. I know it's been a crux for a long time, but we have to find a better way. All right? We cannot risk this shit again because we know it won't last. We know it won't last. It's
the weaker
I don't know.
Marvel Multiverse RPG. In addition, you can support third-party creators by telling your fans and fellow players that we need an #OpenD&D to continue to grow this game that we love. And then again, he's got more information here. In conclusion, this is a complex issue that is still unfolding. However, the main things you need to know are the OGL 1.1 is not an open license, and it imposes many restrictions on the use of works WotC claims to own under relevant copyright law. If you're a third-party creator, the OGL 1.1 gives WotC a perpetual and irrevocable license to your work so that WotC can fully exploit and allow others to exploit without additional permission or payment to you. The 750K threshold affects more than just large third-party creators and can be lowered at any time. And you can expect it to lower incrementally as WotC seeks to profit off third-party creators.
Yep.
Wizards of the Coast is a cool company.
Cool company
that publishes one of our favorite pastimes. However, they are not your friends, and if you do not find
No, they're not a cool company. All right, fuck Jeremy Crawford. Okay, they haven't been a cool company since Mike Merle's left, or he didn't leave, but the things happened. He stuck his neck out too far for somebody he shouldn't have stuck his neck out for. All right, it hasn't been a cool company since then. Mike Merle's is what made that company cool, and since then every supplement has been dog shit. It's been dog shit. It's and people said I was a fanboy of D&D. No, I'm not a fanboy of D&D. I was a fanboy of D&D. Now I just unfortunately play the game because I'm already too entrenched in it to leave. Okay, it's part of my identity now. All right, I have to keep going until I'm literally driven off the edge by this shit. Maybe not this shit, but the battle pass shit that I'm sure is coming. That's when it'll happen. Just like every game ever, basically every popular game ever.
Way to #OpenD&D, then it will probably diminish the incredible game we have come to love. So that's a legal perspective on this, and I think that's a pretty good way to go about it, especially again from Noah, who is an IP tabletop gaming specific lawyer. And that probably, the whole fact that a perpetual license is not irrevocable by nature, that is probably the thing that's going to get a lot of people open their eyes, and that, like, yeah, they can revoke OGL 1.0a. There's nothing saying they can't. So,
yep.
Anyway,
again, intent versus design.
Be the bearer of bad news, but it is what it is. Thank you all so much for watching.
Thank you for reading that to me, so I didn't have to read it myself, because I've been reading all night. I needed a refresher, and I also just had a peanut butter sandwich. Had no idea they could revoke it. I'm honestly shocked. Well, I mean, that described it pretty perfectly, though, I think. Because even like I said, Rules Lawyer pointed out perpetual versus irrevocable, and he wasn't sure. He thought they meant the same thing. But that was a pretty good, and even when you look at WotC's new language against us, right, or against third parties, it says not only perpetual, but also irrevocable, right? It uses them both, which means that they're not the same thing, and perpetual is only time, but it does not classify revocation like he said. So yeah, that's this has been very enlightening. But holy shit, this I mean, it isn't the end of the industry. We just need to rebuild. And again, I say we, like I've been a part of this. I'm not. Okay, I just play D&D. I just DM and do shit, right? But it's not the end. They just have to move away from this open license shit. I know it's a labor of love, and people, have a lot of passion for it, and they want to continue to build on these certain frameworks and grow and evolve on these frameworks. They can't do that anymore. Okay? It will continue because corporations will keep seeing, if this goes the way I think it does, Hasbro will make a fuck ton of money following the model of digital gaming. And it's at that point, other corporations will move in. They're going to see more of this open license shit. They're going to buy out the person that technically owns the license. They're going to find the same bullshit wording and abuse it, find a way to use and abuse it until it no longer exists. They're going to make all the money on the back end from everybody who's ever published shit before, just like they're doing now. And we're going to rinse repeat 3 or 4 more times until they learn their fucking lesson, okay? When you make a game, make it your own. Be unique. Be original. No more of this open source shit, okay? It doesn't work anymore, clearly. Because again, people cannot resist money, and they're going to get bought out. And the people that buy them out really cannot resist money. And they're going to fight it. And they're probably going to win because you can't afford a lawyer.